Let's continue with interpretation of 133 manuscript. And today I would like to look at the Schutzen. Schutzen is an obsessio that is introduced to us in like the first quarter of the manuscript, and it looks like this. And if you look at the image of Schutzen, it seems like obvious. It looks pretty similar to Halbschild. Halbschild looks like this. Schutzen looks like this. So it is like the same thing, but on the other side of the shield. If you accept my interpretation that obsessiones are usually cut, then Halbschild is this cut, like this cut, and Schutzen would look like a cut from the other shoulder on the other side of the shield. So like this. So this is Halbschild and this is Schutzen. Easy, obvious, no problem with it. But if you start to dig deeper, things will start getting weird. For example, Schutzen, the word Schutzen should translate to something like cover or shelter. And the text that is introducing Schutzen to us talks about protection. The text is not very clear, but certainly it connects Schutzen to a protection. So Schutzen should be something protective. Well, it should be, but it's an obsessio, and obsessio is offensive action. So you have here an offensive action that should be protective, so protective that it is named after protection. That is strange, that is mystery. Well, just a little mystery, but it will be worse. Next thing is that, well, okay, it is some extremely protective action, okay? But Schutzen in this, that would look like this, is this. And Halbschild is this. And Halbschild is never connected to a protection. It is, well, obsessio, that's all. No mention about Halbschild being protective. So does it make sense that this is just an attack, but this is a specially protective thing? Well, I don't think so. It's a mystery, another one. Next one. In the first page of the first play in the manuscript, we are told, not portrayed, but only told, that prima custodia, this position, can launch an attack that looks like this. It is only described, but it is pretty clear, like this position of this action of the sword that brings the sword out and attacks. So we are told by the manuscript that prima custodia can launch this type of attack. And this type of attack is said to be like a variant of Halbschild, or similar to Halbschild. Which makes sense, because, I mean, Halbschild is a descending cut, and this is also a descending cut from the other side. So yeah, there is certainly like similarity between this and this. So it's okay that this would be called like a variant of Halbschild. But the question is, why this, which looks even more like Halbschild, is not connected to Halbschild at all? It is not connected to Halbschild by the text, and it has its own name. I mean, this is almost Halbschild, but this is protective Schutzen. It is quite weird, and, well, it's another mystery. And if these mysteries are not enough, then you can look in the second part of the manuscript, where Schutzen is used much more, and it is portrayed much more. And every Schutzen in the second part of the manuscript looks like this. And what you see here is, this is called Schutzen, the same way that the Schutzen from the first part, but it looks absolutely different. I mean, Schutzen from the first part looks like a descending cut, but Schutzen from the second part looks like a rising cut, like this, almost like a kruke. So, and both these things are called Schutzen. So are they the same? And if they are the same, why they look so different? That's the greatest mystery. I believe I have an answer to these mysteries, or at least the hypothesis that could answer these mysteries, but let me digress a little bit. If you accept my interpretation of obsessiones being offensive actions, usually cuts, you can then look through the manuscript and find all those cuts that you would expect to be done with the sword, like descending cuts and the rising cuts, and all these things you can find there, if you accept my interpretation. You can find all these except for horizontal cuts. There is no image that would show you cut like this. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed it. I certainly had, but I didn't pay any attention to it because, well, maybe the priest didn't like horizontal cuts, maybe it was risky, whatever. The system does not have to contain horizontal cuts, of course. But it took me some time before I realized that if the system would contain horizontal cuts, we wouldn't know about it. We wouldn't know about it because the text of the manuscript almost never describes a trajectory of a cut. So what the cut really is, we are deciding based on the images. And the images are, well, stylized. The images cannot portray a position of the sword that is pointing against the viewer, like this. They can portray pretty realistically these angles, but not these. So this position of the sword you would never see painted in the images because the painters wouldn't be able to draw it. And if they were to draw a position like this, they would in fact draw, like turn this plane and draw it like this. That is the way how the images of 133 work, either like this or like this, even if it is this position. And I have already said that the manuscript displays action as a static still frame from the middle of the action. So if you are doing a horizontal cut, then the middle frame would look like this. And this is exactly the position that the stylized style of the images cannot portray. And this position would look either like this or like this. So if we look at the images, this position, this horizontal cut, would look like either descending cut or rising cut. So if we look at the images of the manuscript, we cannot know which rising or descending cuts are in fact horizontal because the text doesn't say it and the images cannot distinguish it. And this brings us back to Schutzen because I want to propose that Schutzen is the horizontal cut that we were looking for. So Schutzen wouldn't be something like this, but it would be something like this. Horizontal cut aimed probably at the head. This would explain a lot of mysteries around the Schutzen. Why is Schutzen not anywhere connected to Halbschild? Well, now it would be clear because Halbschild is a descending cut, while Schutzen is a horizontal cut. So they are quite different. Why are there two different types of Schutzen, so wildly different, and they are both called Schutzen? Well, I would say that because both of them are horizontal cuts, but they come from different sides. So the first Schutzen that we encounter in the manuscript is like this, a cut from the right side. And the Schutzen from the second half of the manuscript would be a horizontal cut from the left side, like this. So there is a difference, but both of them are horizontal cuts, so it makes sense to call both of them the same name. That's common thing to do. But they would look wildly differently when portrayed in the style of 133. So, well, this would explain it. And what about Schutzen being so protective and connected to sheltering and covering? Well, I am not exactly sure about it, but it may be because especially a horizontal cut from the left side, not so from the right side, but from the left side, a horizontal cut like this may covers the whole plane and sweeps away anything that could attack you from the opponent. I may draw an analogy to Fiore dei Liberi, who in his manuscript has, that's the manuscript for longswords, well, not only, but it is known for it. And he has a chapter called Sword in One Hand, and this chapter is dedicated to one defensive reaction. It starts, well, without a shield. He starts like this, and the reaction is like this. And anything that is coming from you, to you from the opponent, you sweep away with this cut and then follow. So Fiore thinks that this type of cut is pretty defensive. He bases a whole chapter on it, on the defense that uses this motion. So maybe this type of Schutzen could be a priest's variant of the same thing, priest from 133. Of course, I'm not sure, but it might be correct. So I believe that at least it brings some new idea to consider Schutzen as a horizontal cut. It has some plausibility. Of course, we cannot be sure, as I have already said. But I think it would explain a lot and makes sense.